I'm Dr. Mark Harris, and I serve as pastor of the First Baptist Church of Charlotte, North Carolina, and have the privilege of being a part of the training for Culture Impact Team leaders as they come together to understand how they can better help carry out the message and carry out the work of a Culture Impact Team right there in their church. You've had the privilege of seeing the overview that was shared with us a few minutes ago by Dr. Keenan Curitan. And in this segment, we want to talk specifically about really the ministry in depth of the Culture Impact Team. One of the things that drew me to the Culture Impact Team as a pastor was just the very practical side of this ministry. In our churches, all of us, it seems, have a finance committee. Many of us have building and grounds committees. Many of us have missions committees. But very few churches, I find, have a culture impact committee that fully understands the importance of helping their people understand the issues of our day and being able to get on their feet and doing something about it. Well, today we want to talk for a few minutes about this Culture Impact Team ministry in specifics. And there are really four things that are key to understanding it. Now, I'll tell you up front, when you go through Culture Impact Team Leader training, there's good news. And the good news is there's no final exam. And everybody, when I share that, always says amen. However, if there were a final exam, I would tell you I would be one of those professors that you hated probably when you were in school. And that is they would give a one-question final exam, and it was all or nothing. This would be the question of the final exam. And that question is, what is the role of the Culture Impact Team in the local church? And the answer you would want to be able to write are these four things: to inform, to equip, to alert, and to mobilize. Let's talk about that for just a few minutes today. Number one, you exist as a Culture Impact Team to inform. And there's really two parts to that: to inform the pastor and to inform the congregation. We purposely emphasize again and again that the Culture Impact Team is not one more thing to be placed on the pastor's plate, but rather it's something that a lay leadership team can come together and take ownership of it and can actually serve to help keep the pastor informed of issues that are coming, as well as informing the congregation of what's happening in their own community or their state or even here in the nation. One of the things that I found personally as a pastor in Charlotte, North Carolina, is what the Culture Impact Team did to help me stay informed of what was happening right there in our city. Our city council had decided to take up what they called a non-discrimination ordinance that was going to somehow, for the first time in the history of our city, make a protected class out of a group of people based purely on how they express themselves sexually. It was hard to believe, but it was actually happening. And as part of that non-discrimination ordinance, it was going to say that transgender individuals would simply choose whichever bathroom they wanted to use, depending on how they felt on any given day. I've read a lot of legislation and read a lot of ordinances through the years. Never had I read anything drafted quite like this that spoke to someone acting based purely on their feelings and not even having to present in a particular way, but a man going into a woman's restroom or a woman going into a man's restroom. You see, when I got that phone call that day there at First Baptist Church, Charlotte, it was a lay leader that was informing me that they had caught wind this was coming. They had done it in a late December meeting of the city council when no one was paying attention the week of Christmas. And then it was going to be voted on in late January. You see, sometimes lay leaders can be informed before the pastor knows about it. And working together, you can inform the congregation of things that are happening. The second thing that you'll notice is the word equip. We bear a serious responsibility as the Culture Impact Team to equip our people. People ask me all the time as a pastor in our state, Mark, where do you think we're losing the battle for the soul of America? My answer might surprise you. It oftentimes does them. I don't think we're losing the battle for the soul of America in our courthouses, as difficult as it is there. I don't believe we're losing the soul of America battle even in the White House, or even in your house, or even our church house. No, if you ask me where we're losing the battle for the soul of America, I'll tell you we're losing it at the water coolers, at the places where our people work. We're losing it out at the football field where we take our kids for Pop Warner football in the fall, at the Y where they play basketball in the winter. We're losing it in the beauty salons where you ladies go, and we're losing it at the barber shop where you men may go. You see, we're losing the battles for the soul of America in all of those places because what they have in common is they are places where conversation has seemed to always take place among Americans. And it was there that we could talk about life and talk about issues. And when we did so with confidence, and we did so with a certain amount of boldness. But today, Christians are somehow stepping back from the water coolers where we work and those other places that I mentioned. And there's a good reason why. Because our people no longer feel equipped and confident in what they're saying. You see, the Culture Impact Team serves a very important role in helping to equip our people. And we have a partner in the Family Research Council that produces documents. In an earlier session, you heard about all of the things that you could have in a Culture Impact Center. Well, what I love about that is the things that you're able to provide to your congregation will help them be equipped on the issues facing us. Documents like the top 10 myths about homosexuality. Documents like why Christians should seek to influence government for good. Documents like modern slavery, how to fight human trafficking in your community. Documents like Is Common Core good for America's students? Or the Bible's teaching on marriage and family. The best pro-life arguments for secular audiences. And yes, the top 10 myths about abortion. You see, these documents put in the hands of our people give them the sense of confidence and the sense of boldness to have those conversations once again that they are backing away from having because they do not feel equipped. You see, I think our pastors need and would look to a Culture Impact Team to help them put this kind of material in the hands of our people. At First Baptist Charlotte, we have a Culture Impact Center where we're able to provide these as well as other documents alongside them, that we're able to share the truth and the real story. And by the way, I'll tell you one of the things I love about all of these documents. The last several pages of every one of them are filled with endnotes and filled with footnotes, which just remind me these documents aren't written by just some average political hack. These are documents that are written by some of the sharpest minds and greatest scholars in American politics, as well as biblical worldviews that are guiding them in their thought. In Charlotte, and I would bet it's true where you live, if our people don't feel like they know what they're talking about, or our people feel like that they're going to get backed into a corner and not be able to talk with boldness and confidence, they just shut up and shut down. That's where we are today. And that's why we're losing the battle for the soul of America. Few things will have a greater impact with your Culture Impact Team than your role of equipping them on the issues of our day. Then, of course, there's the third thing that you'll notice, and that third thing is to alert the congregation. It kind of goes along with informing them and equipping them, but there comes a time where the congregation needs to be alerted. They need to be alerted to understand what is happening. Things pop up from our school boards, things pop up from our county commissioners, things pop up from our city council, as well as our state legislature. And when we can alert our people to what these issues are, and we can alert them to the immediacy of the need to get involved, oftentimes our people will respond. But they can't act on what they have no knowledge concerning. Our Culture Impact Team helps to do that each and every day, to stay involved, stay informed themselves, and then alert the congregation to what's happening. And then the fourth one, well, That's just a mobilize. Sometimes it's not enough to just inform the congregation, and sometimes it's not enough just to give them the information, and even to alert them that this is the need. Sometimes you just got to show up. You've got to rally the troops, and you've got to show up at the meetings. Or you've got to load up the legislator's office with phone calls. Or you've got to load up the letters to the editor page of your local newspaper with a biblical stand on the issue that's being addressed. I've talked to a number of legislative assistants in our own state of North Carolina, and they tell me that our legislators will actually have instructed many of their assistants to come and get them off the floor of the Senate or the floor of the House if they hear simply 3 calls or receive 3 emails on any given issue. Now, I know you may think that seems shocking, but it's reality. It's the truth. In fact, we saw it happen with our own marriage amendment in North Carolina in 2011. You see, it was that fall when our legislature was taking up the issue of the marriage amendment. We were one of the only states in the Southeast that didn't have one. And as the debate was building and things were getting tougher, it was coming down to just a few senators that it was questioned whether or not they were going to go along with it. I received a phone call from an individual in Raleigh who was actually at a rally they were having for marriage, who had just learned that I happened to know an individual that was working for one of those senators. They called me and informed me that this senator was holding out and that they understood that I knew someone that worked in that senator's office. I picked up the phone and I called that individual. That individual explained to me that that senator hadn't made up their mind because, frankly, that senator just looked at that issue with a much more libertarian point of view than maybe others did. And that the reality was that what really needed to happen was that senator needed to hear from their constituents. Because at the end of the day, if they weren't passionate one way or the other on the issue, as many of our elected officials oftentimes will not be, it comes down to who they hear from the most. That person asked me on the phone, they said, let me just tell you, we've received over 300 responses on that issue from the constituents. Would you be interested in just how that breaks out? I said, sure. They said, well, take a guess. I said, if you've had 300, you've probably gotten 250 people that have called that senator in favor of it and probably 50 that have come in opposed to it. He said, no, sir. Actually, we've received 304 responses, 300 against the marriage amendment, and only 4 urging the senator to vote for it. I was overwhelmed. So this individual told me, they said, instead of calling me, you probably need to call several of your pastor friends in that district and have them make the calls to their people to call the senator. This was on a Friday afternoon that this event occurred. By Monday, nearly 500 phone calls and emails had come into that senator's office after 3 pastors were contacted and got the word out to their congregations in that district, and they began to take action. You see, ladies and gentlemen, our nation finds itself at such a crucial point. And the reality is that that senator ended up voting for it. That marriage amendment made it on the ballot, and in 2012, just about 8 months later, the state of North Carolina voted 61% to 39% that marriage would be defined as one man and one woman, period. Well, see, I want you to know that when we face days like we're facing right now, it becomes more important than ever for you to get involved. It becomes more important than ever for our churches to truly step up and step out. The freedoms that we have enjoyed, the freedoms for which our forefathers fought and many died, are what are at stake today. And you as a culture impact team leader have the opportunity to pull that team together and to look at your congregation and to inform them and to equip them and to alert them and to mobilize them to make an impact like never before. Yes, we do face dark days and challenging days as a nation right now, but they can be the most exciting days as the Church of Jesus Christ is awakened in the United States of America like we haven't seen in a generation. My prayer is that God will raise up you, your Culture Impact team, and your local church. You say, Mark, there's only a handful of us. You know, it really doesn't matter. What I love about the Culture Impact team is whether you're in a church of 50 or 500 or 5,000, it doesn't change. They must be informed, they must be equipped, they must be alerted, and they must be mobilized. And when you take that action, God will step in, I believe, and mountains will be moved. May God bless you, and God bless the work of your Culture Impact team.